with the egg on the top. This is when they hung a serpent, and Massey says it wasn't a serpent of death, it was a serpent of life. Well, the two serpents actually were used as a way to show the sun and the moon why they did this was the serpent on a yearly basis sheds its skin and renews itself. Well, it was a metaphor for the light because on a yearly basis, the sun renews the below. It's like they used the dog tied to Sirius, which was Osiris in the myth,
Hmm.
and the three stars in Orion's belt. They said, well, that has to do with the 3 day wobble of the Earth during December. That's not true. It has to do with it takes 3 months for Osiris to be augmented further. This is where Jesus said, making the male and female with the sun and moon, that's the male and female, and the matter is androgynous, into one where it is no longer male or female because now Horus becomes a god. But what that's about is in April is when the stone is actually finished and it's a perfect substance and it's perfect from the sun, which is like God. It's a perfect substance and only God's perfect. So it's like God.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
All the stories in the Bible, are they true or are they all metaphors? Was Moses real? Did Moses really bring the Jews out of Egypt? Was there a person called Christ? Was he the Son of God? Did he walk on water? Were there 12 apostles?
I can only tell you the conclusions that I have
Hmm.
from the things that I can show and prove. And I tell everybody that. I'm starting to have a hard time believing that Jesus was a real person. Let me explain why.
Okay.
First of all, it was the Coptic Christians out of Alexandria that they say Jesus was a part.
Hmm.
They had the ancient knowledge. Now, the way it was in the past, every 2,000 years when a new age came, now that was the age of Pisces was coming. Like right now, we have the age of Aquarius
Yes.
coming.
Yeah.
If this was still the ancient Egyptian uh, empire, all their temples would be torn down and they'd all be rebuilt and they'd be tied in with the new age. And Osiris
Hmm.
would be linked to the new Messiah of that age. Well, see, the Egyptian empire was pretty much destroyed. You had all these people that knew the old religion. There
Hmm.
had to be a savior.
Right.
Otherwise, it was like, how are the people going to pay any attention to it? We have to have a savior. So Jesus became the savior. And John the Baptist is a big part of that whole story. Well, you can go get out Massey's books and you can read about this in ancient Egyptian history. And then you can read it the near Egyptian history tied with Osiris. They used to baptize with the Nile water. See, I thought that, John the Baptist was that was a new thing. No, it's he's thousands and thousands of years old with I think they called him Sut Anup. I don't know how the Egyptians pronounce some of their
Hmm.
words. But this story is thousands and thousands of years old. Now here's the link with alchemy. In September, I can make two stones, the white stone and the red stone. Red and white was the color that Egypt used. And they said, well, it's for the northern Egypt and the red is for the southern Egypt. The three main colors of alchemy are black, red, and white. They have a black, red, and white pyramid. After a while, you say, how many coincidences are coincidences? The white stone is done with the female moon only. It's a lesser stone. It's done by cutting the top off of it or taking the head off the egg because it's direct light. It has to do with moisture. Everything about that stone is the same as John the Baptist. And it's the same 10,000 years ago in these old Egyptian prayers and things that Massey has in his book.
Hmm.
Everything about Jesus is exactly the same as the red stone. There are old records that says he was born in September. Okay, they changed that to December. In December is when the stone unites with Horus. You know that symbol that's on the dollar bill,
Yeah.
the eye of God?
Hmm.
That's the eye of Horus. That symbol was also, I don't know if you've seen or have talked about the lost tomb of the Jesus family.
Geez, we must have because it sounds familiar.
Right. Well, that symbol was on the door. Now they passed it over. They said, oh, that's just a family symbol. But in that same film, they went to the grave of Peter, and the
Hmm.
same symbol was there. Peter was not a member of the Jesus family. The symbol was a symbol just like on the dollar bill. It has to do with this matter. When you make, like Jesus said, make the male and female into one. When you make it into one, it takes 3 months to get to that point. You do it in the upper part of the oven, where below you were working at the lower part of this oven, and it joins with just the sun. This is where Osiris unites with Horus in the religion. In alchemy, it's when I am going to make the matter like the sun. That's what the alchemists, that's how they describe it.
Hmm.
And the sun is perfect. It's male, pure spirit. That's what you're doing with this matter at that stage. Everything fits. It's like talking about Gerald Massey's books. I'll say he has 2,000 pages. Rob, on 7 or 8 or 900 of those pages, I can explain it in a different way and link it to this process, link it to Jesus, link it to Osiris, link it to what they did in ancient Egypt. I know nobody else has ever said these things to you. I say that I found the past. Nobody wants to listen because it's just about so many things. I'll tell you another thing. Like, look what we made astrology today. Well, you can go down and tell them when you're born, and they'll tell you your whole life,
Well,
everything
I
comes.
don't. I don't put a lot of faith in astrology. I don't put a lot of faith in psychic phenomenon. I'm kind of guy. I want to see the proof. I don't want. I don't want smoke and mirrors anymore. There's enough people out there who are blowing smoke up your butt all the time. I want
I
facts. I want
understand.
proof.
Okay, this is the proof about astrology. Like I said, what man has made it into.
Hmm.
Okay, if you get into all the alchemical pictorial allegories where they drew pictures, and each picture, and believe me, everything in that picture says something. When they have an astrological symbol, and after a while you can see that all these steps are tied to different astrological symbols. The word definition that's tied to that constellation fits to what you're physically doing to the matter in the below. Another coincidence? It's like we talked about the virgin birth,
Right.
okay? And they call it the two sisters. The two sisters are the constellation Virgo, which is overhead in September, and the other sister is the moon female. This is in Genesis. It doesn't say this in Genesis, but when the dry land is brought forth, okay, on the third day. That's the end of the third day. The dry land's brought forth. In alchemy, it's called mercury. It's the substance that Flamel describes. This is when Osiris is reborn. This is the dry land that Adam was made out of when he was formed into a man. Everything is tied into this process when you know it. And like yourself, and I tell everybody, I have the steps free on my site.
Hmm.
If you'll learn the steps, the times of the years, the constellations, what they did in Egypt, you can go back into these books and you can figure all of it out. And all the other religions, there's a dozen religions that you can go back and talk about. Every one of them has three, four, five different parts of this old science. After a while, you say, how come they all have parts of it? Why don't they have the whole thing? The only place that I can find the whole thing is in Egypt, but even there, I told you that they had problems 4,500 BC in trying to understand a lot of this,
Hmm.
but it was never lost. Our alchemists knew it. They talk about Plato and Platonics. That's alchemy. Uh, Anybody, Sir Isaac Newton, all of these guys, Da Vinci, all the things they did, the way the buildings were built, even in the United States, the Constitution says the natural God or the God of nature.
All right, let me ask you this because we're running out of time very fast here. Why do we need to know this? We've done so long without it. What's the big deal about it in today's society?
I always wanted to know the truth about the past, Rob. Uh, I went to a Christian school for
Hmm.
6 years, then I went to a public school. We learned a lot of catechism and stuff like that.
Right?
I just want to know the truth about things. Your spirit, your soul. People talk about it all the time. And I've had a lot of bad times, I might say, when because people say my spirit, blah blah blah. I say, listen, if you understand baptism and if you understand Jesus and the creation, You don't have a spirit. The reason Jesus says that he came to earth and the reason he was baptized, if you read in the Gnostic Gospels, like I said, they've been buried 2,000 years, okay?
Hmm.
He believed in Sophie, that the earth was brought forth by the female goddess,
Yes.
okay? This gets right back to alchemy, where the
Hmm.
dry land earth is brought forth by the moon only. You only have soul. I can read it to you in the Pymander. I can read it to you in a lot of places, but you
So,
need
so,
the.
so basically, this is a personal quest you're on.
Well, it didn't turn out. I mean, I didn't start out any of this. I just a long time ago when I read this, I said, so I think as a society we've missed something of the past.
But
And as far as
but my question to you, Al, and I'm sorry, but I'm having a problem understanding why, if this is not fact, why people are interested in it.
which part's not the fact.
Well, the entire thing that so far, we've had a great discussion. There's a lot of theory, there's a lot of supposition, but where's the archaeological facts to collaborate all that we've been talking about?
The facts are in all the books.
Ah, wait a sec. No. I mean more than books. I mean physical evidence that we can see in museums. There is none.
I don't know. A lot of these prayers and things that Massey is talking about are all carved in stone over in Egypt in their graves.
All right. So this is based on the Egyptian philosophy.
Right.
But has there been collaborative evidence found around the world? I mean evidence, not supposition, not philosophies, not theories. Evidence to collaborate this one world religion that you talked about.
You have to do it with the pyramid. There's pyramids all over the world.
Well, of course, people wanted to get higher to what they believed was their creations.
Well, you can believe that, but why didn't they just build a round tower or a square tower? Why did they always come up with the same design?
Because
Some of them are
because
almost
of the
like.
stability of the pyramid. It's got a fixed base.
Well, a few minutes ago, you were saying, these are people that knew nothing, lived in the sand, the
Well,
desert.
it doesn't take a genius to understand that if you step in water, you're going to get wet, or if you step
That's,
in mud, you're going to slip.
but do you know what phi is?
I'm sorry,
Do you know what phi is?
PHI. No, tell me.
Phi is a mathematical principle. You have to know math in depth to be able to figure it out. In some of these pyramids, we're just figuring out some of the math principles that they have in them.
All right, stand by, Al. We've got to take our final break. We'll be back on the other side. Exonation. Al Sylvester's our guest, thefirstmythology.com. You be the judge. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. www.spreaker.com.